All right, everybody, welcome back to the Top Agent Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Espey, along with my co-host, Miss Stacey Regula. We are both realtors with eXp, and we are interviewing the top agents around the nation. And today is a special day because Chris Molenaar joins us, and he is one of the senior people in our organization. So Chris has actually been a mentor to both of us at some point in our careers. So, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. This is a lot of fun.
So, where we like to begin, Chris, is we like to go back all the way to the start. Now, we're not talking about the start of your real estate career, but we want to actually get back to your whole life story, an overview. So, before real estate, let's go from the beginning. Where are you actually from, and what was life like for you?
Oh yeah. So, I'm originally from BC, and I did 1 year university in BC, and and then I dropped out of university and moved to Saskatchewan. And the long story short is, it was one girl that brought me here and a different girl that keeps me here now. But when people ask me that, I can't just say, well, for Saskatchewan women. But I always say that I was born and raised in BC, but I was really um, I grew up in Saskatchewan, is the way that I say it. But I started in sheet metal, believe it or not. I came from a trades family. I'm a sheet metal worker, actually, believe it or not, by trade. So, but I was the only one of my siblings. There's 5 of us, and I was the only non-mechanically inclined of the bunch. And so I reluctantly got into a trade by default because I didn't really know what to do with my life. So I got in, got my trades ticket, and got out as quick as I possibly could. And along the way, I had some injuries. So, it didn't look very exciting for me to stay in, a job that required my physical labor. So I decided at that time to, pursue real estate of all things. And it was a huge learning curve for me to get into real estate and build my career essentially from scratch. I didn't know anybody really in Saskatoon, and I certainly didn't have much for natural sales ability and talent and skill. So I really had to sort of craft, my ability to sell, really, to communicate and all those types of things. And so that I really did kind of start from scratch in my real estate career. And it's been really good for me. I think this is my 10th year in the business so far. And now I can happily say that I'm top producing agent, team leader, and building an organization here at eXp that helps develop a really great lifestyle for myself and my family. So really excited about how things have come, but also remembering that, yeah, it was a pretty humble kind of a beginning, and was some good but hard lessons in the beginning, definitely, for sure.
Now, I hope you don't mind me bringing this up, but there was a story you told me, and you alluded to it. You said there was an injury, but I remember you telling me there was an injury, and then there was another injury.
Yes.
Do you mind telling us that story?
Yeah. So 100%. I broke my Achilles tendon. It took me about 8 months to heal that. And of course, I couldn't, change furnaces, install furnaces, and change ductwork and stuff like that as a sheet metal worker when I was injured. So, 8 months I was off, for this injury, recovering. And then I finally got back to work for a few weeks. And I was at a buddy's house, and we had a couple beers, and I was showing them how strong my other leg was, jumping around like an idiot. And I broke my other Achilles tendon. And, the first one, we say my wife was the one that really kept me together because mentally that was really tough. And the second one, it was me that kept her together. And believe it or not, I scratched up as much as I possibly could. And I actually proposed during the end of that second injury. I didn't have my journeyman ticket yet in sheet metal. All the money I had to my name basically went towards that engagement ring. And so, that was kind of my very, she took she took a bit of a gamble on me in the beginning, but I'm hoping that it's starting to pay off. I'm just kidding, but no, it's been quite the journey. My wife and I, we've actually traveled to 37 different countries now since my start in real estate, but it wasn't an easy start, that's for sure. And so, yeah, that was kind of the tipping point. That second time I said, something's got to change. I don't think I can go back to climbing ladders every day. So
Wow. So that after those 2 injuries, that was kind of your like why you started in real estate type thing. It's just figured out it wasn't for you and moved on.
Yeah, I just looked at all the people around me and said, that's not the life that I want, and so I was just looking for more. And Emily, I remember she took me to the bookstore, and I was so uncomfortable because I was in my early 20s. And she said, because I said I can do anything with my life. I was selling her on this you know, ambition or whatever. And she called me on it. She said, let's go to the store. If you think you can start your own business, buy a book and learn how to do it. And I was like, well, we can't, first of all, it can't be that simple. And second of all, it's just, I never really spent any time in a bookstore. And so I walked out with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I think it was, and it totally changed the way I saw money and business and real estate. And so that kind of inspired me, to get further into personal development, and then as well, looking into real estate and sales and making sales a career. So
he's really answering all our questions for us. So we're going to have no questions left to answer.
Well, that's the way a good interview goes. We just kind of go down a path.
Wonderful.
So, I mean, the higher power telling you you're not meant for this life of trades. It was something else, but definitely it seemed like something was pushing you towards where you are now. Now, let's talk about the beginning. Can you talk about your past brokerages? Because you're obviously with eXp now, but how was your career prior to eXp?
Yeah, I started my career with a franchise style company. It's a smaller franchise, Realty Executives. And I spent, I think, almost 3 years there. And it was kind of hindsight, it was a little bit bittersweet, kind of an ending at that brokerage, to say it nicely without getting into detail. Mostly bitter at the time, but that was definitely a pivotal point for me to learn a little bit more about myself, for me to make some attitude adjustments, to admit my own failures. But most importantly, it sort of forced me to grow and put me on a path that got me here today. And I don't know that I'd be here today at eXp without that experience. And so I spent the next, I think, 3 years or so at one of the local independent brokerages here in town that's led by one of the top agents in town. And so he was a great mentor of mine. His name's Jordan Boys. I worked with his company for 3 years. But partway along that sort of path, working with him, I learned about eXp Realty. But eXp Realty was not available in Saskatchewan at that time. So I found out about it. This was about 2017, and I was really excited, literally jumping up and down, excited about this opportunity to really put my skills to good work, because learning the business the way that I did put me in a really good position to help coach and train and mentor and support other real estate agents. And I knew that this would be a perfect business model to apply that. And but it wasn't available in Saskatchewan, and of course, you guys know, in Manitoba for even later. But it opened up in Saskatchewan about the middle of 2019, and so I was the first real estate agent to join eXp Realty here in Saskatoon. And I think we're going to have almost 100 agents in the province coming up here pretty quick, and it's only been a few years. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we're climbing pretty quickly here too. We're in the 60s, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah. And I think I was 25, number 24 or 25 in January this year. So
wow.
It's grown since then. So
we don't have a number one. Sorry, Stacey. We don't have like the first person to join. We've got like 10 people that are kind of tied for that, because I was one of the very first ones. I guess Rena would be number one.
Yeah.
Because she came on as the broker, but there was a handful of us that all moved at the very same time. So when the launch date came, we were already on board, and I was excited very much at the time, nervous, scared, but mostly excited, and never looked back.
Me too.
Yeah, it just keeps getting better.
So when you joined eXp, what changed for you?
I think a lot changed. I really did, to be honest with you. I expected it to grow faster than it did. And I think part of the reason was because AJ Maida is my direct sponsor, and his success story is pretty amazing. But like I said, when it totally changed the way that I do business. Like at the current moment, I have a team of agents that help support all of my transactions so that I can afford to spend more time with my family without sacrificing my income, as well as I have multiple streams of income now with eXp. So if you include all of them, I'm actually making more money than I would before, with a substantially better lifestyle. So that's the biggest difference for me is money's great, but it's like, well, what does that do for the people that you care about? And what does your future look like? And so I knew the day one when I moved over to eXp that my financial future was 100% different than how it would have been otherwise. It's
Yeah.
easy to get burnt out and get caught in the grind in real estate. And I definitely was for a number of years. And there's kind of a ceiling that you hit that you literally cannot grow without spending more hours, without taking big financial risks or without building a team. And it was a lot more difficult to build a team at a traditional real estate brokerage.
It's very interesting to me to hear, because I see Chris Molenaar all the time talking to other people and getting their story. But to hear your story, the way you're telling it, is inspiring to me. And you are absolutely correct. You can get burnt out and you can just keep on that hamster wheel of finding the next house to sell. But you're right, with those extra opportunities that come with eXp, it's an amazing thing for us that we have the ability to start having alternative revenue streams.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. There's always another house to sell, but you have a limited number of hours with your kids and with your family. They grow up fast, and but at the same time, most of us got into real estate because we are ambitious and because we wanted to build something. So it's not that we want to sacrifice what it is that we want to build and grow with our career, but eXp sort of has an opportunity or a platform for us to be able to sort of have our cake and eat it too, which is really great.
Yeah. So we kind of have your story now, Chris, and we appreciate you so much for doing that. Now's the time where we kind of ask you a whole bunch of fun questions that are kind of off the cuff. And if you've seen some of these interviews before, you kind of know what's coming. So I'll ask the first one. Do you have a favorite movie? The one that you see, if it's on TV, you'll tune in, you'll watch it, or the one I've seen over and over again. I think we all have that one that we put on and watch, and I kind of know the next line coming, but still watch it. What's that one for you?
Oh man, favorite movie. The way I'm going to answer this question is, I'm really upset because all of the new Marvel movies don't have Iron Man. And I mean, I can't really say that it's one movie, but it's just basically I'm total, comic book nerd when it comes to watching these Marvel movies. And I keep following them and watching them, and it's hard to keep up now these days. But I miss Iron Man. It's like, man, you gotta bring him back. It's not the same without him, So I'm all caught up in that. Definitely.
Nice.
Yes.
I know you do a lot of real estate, but what is your favorite thing to do when you're not doing real estate, other than watch Iron Man?
Yeah. No, honestly, I would say my wife and I, we like to travel, which hasn't been as much since we had kids, and then as well now with COVID. And surprisingly enough, I found myself recently, this might sound a little bit boring, but yard work, just being out, being active, doing something.
I love cutting grass.
Yeah, cutting grass or the tree, whatever there is in the yard that is to do, and just I guess playing outside with my son too. So
nice.
Really, it's either family or work for me is kind of what it seems to be. But
yeah.
Well, you've been to 37 countries, so I find that really inspiring because, yeah, we've been talking about travel, and it's one of those things you always talk about. I'm like, hey, like, let's do it now. Like, COVID's over, but sort of.
Yeah, 100%.
So the next one is, and you alluded to this a little bit, so I'm curious if it's the same one or not that you mentioned earlier, but what book has had the most influence on you?
Oh man, like I said, I've literally read a book a week since she sort of brought me into the bookstore. So again, I'm a bit of a nerd. I love reading, but I think that it really does help your career over the time, and it kind of shapes who you are. But man, it's really hard to pick just one. I'd almost have to be more specific as to what book helped me with. Let me just say, I'm going to go ahead and say How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And a reason why I choose that book is because that book inspired me to take the public speaking course that was sort of attached to that franchise with Dale Carnegie. And that was really what helped me launch my career. And without it, I don't think that I'd have the communication skills and abilities to be effective as an agent. And without that, you can't really do much in real estate. So that's what I'll say.
I appreciate that answer. And that is also one of my favorites. and possibly the first one that I ever read in that sort of genre.
Nice.
Very cool.
Our last hard question for you is the single best piece of advice you've ever been given.
This is kind of funny actually, because I was talking to my my uncle, and we were talking about, like, personal development basically, and we're talking about money management and finances and all this kind of stuff, and I was trying to be smart, and he said, what's the best financial advice that I could ever give you? And he said, don't get divorced. And it's funny. Yeah, actually, I remember this because Mike Ferry was on stage, and he said, he was making a joke, and he said, honey, what do you want for Christmas? And she says, a divorce. And he goes, whoa, I wasn't looking to spend that much. And but the funny, honest truth of it is, the divorce rate in real estate is so high. And because of that, I just think that we have to remember what's important and keep our priorities straight. And so ultimately, I do think that that's the most important thing. And if it takes you a year or a few years longer to get where you're looking to go, I think it's more important that you do it, with your priorities, in order. So it's, especially when you're ambitious, it's easy to get out of balance. So you got to try to find a way to reach sort of ground zero every so often, and take time for yourself and your family.
So are you telling me I left a career with a high divorce rate for another career with a high divorce rate? Oops.
It's an individual, it's a case by case thing, but I think the divorce rate is high everywhere. But I mean, in any time where there's stress and pressure, any time where there's, I guess, entrepreneurship involved, it's just another element to it for sure. So,
yeah. Well, I know which career Stacey's alluding to, and I come from the same background. But I think that career's actually got a higher rate than this one, Stacey.
Yes.
You should be okay. If you made it through corrections, you'll be okay in real estate.
We got married while I was in corrections. We've been together since I applied for corrections. So, yeah.
Well, I think there's all kinds of other side effects and ratios that come from that type of career that are not always necessarily positive. But I mean, it is definitely a service that's required from our communities and our society. But yeah, it's the tough job.
Yeah.
This one has been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, we appreciate you so much. We know you're busy, and we also know that you make yourself available to us when we need something at any time. So we appreciate you.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming on here, and wish you the best. And I'm going to see you at eXpCon in October.
You betcha. Well, thanks for having me on, and I appreciate you guys, and I'm super pumped to be partnered with you, and thanks for having me on here. We'll look forward to doing it again soon, and we'll talk to you again soon.